Hi guys, my name's Josh, and I'd like to welcome you guys to a new video series called FAB201. What is FAB201? Well, FAB201 is all about taking the game to the next level. So we're going to be featuring high-level gameplay with a focus on strategy, tactics, and most importantly, decision making. In Flesh and Blood, there are thousands of decisions that go into each and every game, and making the correct ones consistently can lead you to winning a higher percentage of your games. So that's what we're doing here. We plan on uploading roughly once every 2 weeks. Each of these videos takes a tremendous amount of time to make and edit. So we're really going for quality over quantity here. So about every 2 weeks or so, there'll be a new episode. So what is today's episode? Well, today's episode is a game between myself playing Dorinthea and an opponent playing Briar. This is the grand finals of the Season 3 skirmish up in Dalton, Georgia. So this is a very, very good match, and I think there's several things that you guys can take away from this. So as we go through it, just keep these two things in mind that I wrote down here, that every single point of offense and defense matters in this game, and you're going to see exactly just what I mean by that in a couple minutes. And also that victory and defeat often happens several turns before you actually win or lose. Now that's a concept that's a little bit tough to understand in this game. Is oftentimes there's not a direct correlation between, okay, I made this play and then I immediately lost. There are some games where that will happen, but oftentimes it is several incremental advantages or several incremental mistakes that are made that result in a loss or a win. So those are just two things to keep in mind. So we're just going to jump right into the game here, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode of Fab 201. So as you can see, it is Dorinthea versus Briar. The format is Blitz. And the very first thing that I notice off the bat is that my opponent is running Hope Merchant's Hood and Snapdragons, both of which lead me to believe that this is a very, 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 very aggressive Briar build. The Hope Merchant's Hood is typically used to ensure that they do not flood or miss any beats during their turns. So my opponent here starts out with the Gorganian Tome, Sting of Sorcery, creating an embodiment. That's going to send one arcane at me. Nothing I can do here. So this attack is for 4 here. Looking at my hand, I have 2 Sharpened Steels, a Blue Iron Song, and a Steel Blade Supremacy. In this case, I don't really care about the first 3 cards. I'm willing to give them up. However, if I can avoid it, I would like to not block with the Supremacy if I can avoid it. My opponent currently has 2 cards in hand right now, so it's likely that there's just a Rosetta Thorn coming up and an Arsenal. So that means I just have to give him the first 3 cards. However, since I might be able to draw something pretty aggressive, possibly I may need to limit the amount of embodiments that he gets. Plus, I don't want him to draw from Snatch. Some shenanigans could come up here. So in order to maximize my block, I need to utilize one piece of equipment here. So I use my bolters and block with the Sharpened Steel. Fully blocking the Snatch. So here I anticipate that my opponent is just going to pitch. Maybe make a Rune Chant, but he looks like he just has a red. So this is going to be a block with the Skullcap Arcane Barrier and throwing the other Sharpened Steel in front of the sword to not take any damage. It's very, very important to take as little damage as possible on turn 1. So I get to preserve my Steel Blade Supremacy, and then I draw up 3 more cards. Now this hand is not a very good hand at all. So what I'm looking to do here is just send a little bit of pressure, maybe get some of his armor, get that Twitting Blade out of here, and arsenal a Supremacy. So I pitch away the Twinning Blade. That's a card that you basically never want in your hand or arsenal. It's a card that you want to grab with Singing Steel Blade, or just let it come up later in the game if you're calculating where it is in the deck. Since I only have one Twinning Blade in my deck, I really want to preserve it. So I decided to pitch it here, play a Blue Warrior's Valor, and swing for 4. A pretty weak attack here. So given given how my opponent has been just demeanor and how he's been talking, I've got a feeling that he basically is not going to be blocking anything from me. So, like I said, he just throws his 2 pieces of armor in front of it, which doesn't give me reprise, doesn't turns off a lot of my cards. So I just take the damage, or take the damage to the armor and move on with life. So I redraw into another hand that is not that great. I still don't have a pump to ensure that Supremacy will hit. My opponent here is activating Hopebridger's Hood for 4. So that means he likely bricked on his turn. Either he drew all attack actions or all non-attack actions. So he sends 4 cards away, and he's going to get 4 new cards here. As for my side here, I'm just looking here to find a way to set up this energy potion, since pitching energy potion and swinging the sword is going to be pretty weak. And my opponent still has some points of armor, so I kind of want to get those if I can. So that's kind of my play coming up, or that's my plan coming up here. He starts off with a Weave Lightning and a Nimblism. 6 damage here with an Embodiment. And then a Arcanic Shockwave here for 3. So this attack is for 9 with Go Again. My opponent has 2 cards, so we're likely to see... So when you're deciding how to block, not only do you have to plan out your turn, but when you're playing against a very wide deck, you need to think about what could be coming next. So here, if my opponent pitches and plays a CNC or something like that, I have to be ready for that. So in this case, I'm debating whether to block with 2 cards or 1 card here. So in this case, to make myself more resilient against Command and Conquer, I think I'm going to block with 1 card here. That way I can throw 2 cards in front of CNC and still play out the E-Pot. But if he doesn't do that and he just, makes a swing with the Rosetta Thorn and arsenals a card, then I'm just going to be taking a lot of damage here, and my next turn is not very strong, and he's also going to have an Embodiment, which is going to be a little bit problematic. So here, basically, I have to block with one of my blue cards, either the Hit and Run or Out for Blood. So I'm just going to block with the Hit and Run here. Taking 6 here, dropping down to 13. Giving him an Embodiment. Something about this matchup is that you got to preserve your armor for your big turn. Because the embodiments on the big turn can really shut you down, especially if they have several. The difference between 1, 2, and 3 embodiments is pretty huge. So my opponent pitches a Snatch and comes in for 2 and 2 here. So I have several lines of play here. I could pitch and block the Arcane, or I could preserve all 3 cards and go from there. Since my opponent has shown a tendency to throw armor in front of things, and just in general, Runeblades love throwing their armor in front of things to maintain tempo. And when I go for my big turn, I really want him to have as little armor as possible. So I'm heavily debating just taking the damage here and dropping to 9. Because I don't have a pump, so I can't really just pitch the energy potion, play Spoils of War, and swing. That just is not. That's just not going to get any damage in. So I drop to 9 here. I pitch the blue out for blood, play out the Spoils of War. Just letting my opponent draw. And coming in for 5 here with natural go again. Now, if this does not get blocked, I'm probably still playing the energy potion here. I'm probably not going to swing again. So I'm hoping that he blocks, and it looks like he does. The Candlehold blocks for 4, and the Grass blocks for 1. No damage there. So I get to set up my energy potion. So that will allow me to play with a 6-card hand, essentially. So I redraw into basically as good a hand as it gets. I mean, actually, I'd prefer the Iron Song Determination to be something else, like an Out for Blood or Stroke of Foresight, but that's fine. So here, I know that basically I'm not going to block here, and I'm basically going to go all in here. So I just have to focus here on my defense, making sure he doesn't get embodiments, making sure I don't take too much damage here, and just trying to predict his line of play here. So based on his deck, I'm starting to become more, because I didn't get to scout this guy's deck at all. This is the first time I played him, and I didn't get to observe any of his games. But based on my observation so far from this game, the chance of him having CNC is actually quite low now. He seems like more of a red line deck. So he plays out a Plunder Run Scar for 6 here, and I block with my heavy armor here. Anticipating maybe one more attack. If there was one more attack, I'd probably throw my Iron Song Determination in front of it, since that's a card I don't really need. But it looks like it's just an attack for 2 and 2 here. Oh, 2, 2, and 1. Sorry, that's a blue Plunder Run that he pitched. So here I am determining whether or not I want to block with Iron Song Determination or not. Because that will save me 2 health, but that will also mean that I do 2 less damage here. The break point in my mind is that I'm thinking if I can get a triple hit combo in, then the Iron Song Determination is actually worth 3, and on defense is worth 2 here. So I decide to keep the Determination. So this next turn, basically, I have to put all my cards down and hope that he blocks. However, in my mind, the chance that he blocks is actually very low. So that's why I'm considering blocking with the Iron Song Determination here. But I calculate in my head that my attack here will be doing 8, and with the Iron Song response, it will do 11. So it's actually possible for him to if he has a good hand, he could actually block me out there. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just keep the Iron Song Determination here. So I drop down to 4 against 20. Now this is a very, very, on paper, this is a very, very uncomfortable spot. However, this is the whole game has been coming up to this point here where I need to have set up for it, and I've actually drawn a very good hand. So I can just go here. Right now I'm weighing, do I need to use my Courage of Bladehold here? Since I have an energy potion and I'm likely to draw and he's not likely to block. Ultimately, I decide to go for it. I lay down 3 cards in a row and swing the Dawnblade. So this is coming in for a ton of damage here. This is coming in for 9 with 2 on-hit effects with Dominate. So basically, he the downside of Iron Song Determination is that unless they have armor and a defense reaction in arsenal and a good blocking card, like there's there's almost no point in putting a card in front of this. So that's why I've been. I mean, Iron Song Determination obviously is very good when your opponent is low, but when your opponent's at 20, in my mind right now, the chance of him blocking is like basically zero. So I'm a little bit sad that I have an Iron Song response in hand that it's basically gonna get no value. But hopefully I draw into something better. So my opponent here is just thinking about what to do here. And in my mind, I'm just hoping that he blocks here, but in reality, I know that the chance of him blocking is very, very low. Not only is he at 4 life, the chance of like any arcane damage that he sends my way is gonna demand cards. So the chance that he keeps his whole hand, like he obviously wants to keep his red cards, and he's very likely to keep any blue cards as well because those can make a Rune Chant and swing Rosetta Thorn. So unless he's flooded with cards here, I don't see him blocking. And since he used Hope Merchant's Hood, there's actually some chance that he flooded here. So he's just debating here what to do. So he declares no blocks here. I'm just thinking it over here a little bit because I basically need to decide whether or not I'm using my bracers here as well. So I draw a card, draw into Singing Steelblade, a very, very good card on paper because this can allow me to get Twinning Blade, and if I can get Twinning Blade, I can basically OTK him here. Since this is coming in for 6 with the Iron Song response, if needed, it can go to 9, and I still have bolters. So this could be a triple hit here if he blocks. I decide to activate the bracers here, since I don't think he's going to block. And I send in another attack here for 7. Now, I've been very purposeful with keeping my life total below him at all times. Because that will allow me to use the Skull Cap against the Rosetta Thorn if I really need to. And just in general, that's also very important if he was running Skull Cap as well, but he's not. So here my opponent is just checking whether or not I can attack a 3rd time here. The only way I can attack a 3rd time here is if he blocks. If he blocks here, he will basically lose the game. It is a little bit more enticing to block now, since it is only for 7 instead of 9. However, I have an extra card now, so that basically negates that. So the fact that he did not block the first attack basically means he's not blocking the second attack, which makes me quite sad here, because it would have been cool to pull off an OTK and Blitz. Yep, so right now I'm just kind of debating, like, okay, so if he doesn't block here, should I take the chance that I draw into Nourishing Emptiness? And basically, now that basically I have 1 Nourishing Emptiness in my deck, and if I draw into it, I could actually break my bolters here. I could order the triggers so that I draw first, and then decide whether or not I want to break the bolters here. So there's several things going through my mind. I'm thinking about whether to pitch the Iron Song response to play the Stinging Steelblade for 1 damage here. That'd put us both on 4. Or to hold both of the cards and hope that I draw Nourishing Emptiness. And then I can use the Singing Steelblade to pay for the Nourishing Emptiness. In the end, I decide that the latter is a higher EV play. So I don't go for the single damage on the Singing Steelblade. My opponent has a full hand plus an arsenal card, and so I'm really thinking like one damage here is not going to be enough. I basically have to get quite lucky and draw nourishing. So that's what I do here after debating for a little bit. Yep, so resolve damage here. He drops down to 5. I draw a card and put a counter on the Dawnblade. I draw probably the worst card here in the single copy of blue Steelblade Shunt here. So here I have to decide what I'm putting into my arsenal. I decide to go for the Iron Song response since the Singing Steelblade costs an energy, and I'm very likely to not have any energy to spare next turn. In addition, the straight damage at this point is just worth more. So this blue Steelblade Shunt is probably the worst card for me to draw here. So I'm really looking on how to get this out of my hand. So the Steelblade Shunt, because I'm not running Tunic, basically can't be used efficiently except to block the Rosetta Thorn arcane damage here. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do here. So right now I have 2 points of armor here and 4 cards, and I'm just looking to survive this turn and then send damage back with my Energy Potion and Dawnblade with my Iron Song response in Arsenal. He plays a Plunder Run into an Entwine Lightning, fusing it with Weave Lightning. So this is 4 damage here. So this is going to demand a card from hand plus a armor from my equipment. In this case, which card I block with here does not really matter much since he's likely to get every single card here. But the card that I'm that is the least desirable here is actually the Singing Steelblade, since any blue plus route can combo. So I believe I throw out the Singing Steelblade first here, although it really doesn't matter what I block with here because with 3 cards still in hand, basically every card from my hand is going to block here. I just have to make sure that I'm very efficient here. Now, I know that my opponent could have Razor or Lightning Press. So I basically have to save the Shunt till the very end of the combat chain here. Basically, I'm trying to get a little bit more information about what his attack pattern will be. And then that will help me defend better here. So it's very important against these lightning decks in general to make sure that they don't hit with the Plunder Run, because that essentially is 4 damage. So the Plunder Run trigger is still sticking around, even though he closes the chain here, so that's something to be aware of. Comes in with Weave Lightning, making an embodiment, and coming in with the Lightning Surge, I believe. So this is a little bit scary because I don't know what is coming next. However, I can almost certainly put him on it's either 4 damage coming after this, or it's going to be a blue into a 2/2/1. Now, if it's a 4 damage attack with Go Again, I'm very sad here. But the only way that could happen is if it's like a Rabble or something like that. So here I throw 7 in front of it. And it is a blue Plunder Run, so he's going to make a Rune Chant and swing for 2/2/1 here. And so my Shunt here basically gets to be used in the most efficient way possible, I guess. So I'm just going to take the rune chant damage here, block with the shunt, and then take the Rosetta's physical damage and drop down to 1. Not the greatest spot. However, there's nothing really I can do here. If he has something like a Sigil of Suffering, I mean, so be it. So I take the Arcane, block the Rosetta's Arcane, take the physical, drop down to 1. And here we're going to see the importance of saving your bolters. So this allows me, with the potion in play, to make an attack with 0 cards in hand, which is always quite cool. So I pop the E-Pot, swing Dawnblade for 4 here. And right now, the most damage that I could represent here is 8, assuming there's a Singing Steel Blade in my arsenal. So he is pretty safe here, and I expect the game to go a little bit longer. However, this should get some cards out of his hand. Looks like he's going to double block here for 5. And here, I basically have to play out this Iron Song response to ensure that my attack hits to trigger my hero ability. So here he's going to take 2. And I will blow my bolters here and swing again for 4 using the last energy. So I have no cards in hand, no armor pieces left, nothing on the field. And he has 2 ball lightnings, and so I get there and take him down to -1. Even if he had a card that could block there, I still would have been in a pretty decent spot, considering the most that he could do is send 2 damage back at me next turn. That means I could attack him back with a 3-card hand, and so that would be that'd be pretty good. All right, so let's move to the wrap-up section now. Wow, oh wow, that was a great game, wasn't that? I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a really, really close game, and that really just showcases the fundamentals of attacking and defending properly, and that every single decision point that you make can come back to either reward you or haunt you later on in the game. So yeah, in terms of the key takeaways, like I said, every single point of offense and defense matters there. There are a lot of decisions where I had to decide whether or not to attack for a little bit more or defend for a little bit more. How to get every single point of value from armor as well is very important. And then the second point, talking about victory or defeat several turns before it actually happens. Setting up the energy potion there was a huge tempo loss there, but that resulted in me being able to defend with my whole hand and strike back with a 0-card hand, essentially winning me the game there. So I hope you guys learned something today. As this is the first episode of FAB201, I would like as much feedback as possible on this. If you guys have any comments, feedback, questions, anything, please put it down in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you guys on that. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for games that you think would be good to showcase on this series, that'd be wonderful as well. If you could point me to those replays or to those recordings, that would be wonderful. Also, if there's any topics that you guys want me to discuss in particular, that would also be greatly welcomed. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a good day, and I just if you're watching this when it comes out, it's about Christmas time, so I just hope you guys are having a good holiday time with your friends and family. If not, if you're watching this at a later date, go watch episode 2. That should be out by now. So I just hope that, yeah, hope you're having a good day. See ya.
We'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays, and